The royal hall of Aurelian Prime was not built for humans. Its ceiling was so high it vanished into soft blue light. Tall pillars curved like frozen waves, carved with symbols older than most stars. The floor was smooth crystal, cold even through heavy boots. Every sound echoed, slow and heavy, as if the room itself was listening. Hundreds of alien nobles stood in silence. They were tall, sharp-eyed. Their skin shimmered in colors no human word could name. Their armor was alive with faint energy, breathing like a calm beast. Each of them carried power. Each of them carried judgment. And in the center of the whole stood one human. His name did not matter here. He was small in this place. Not weak, but alone. He had come as a translator. Nothing more. A temporary helper sent by the Human Alliance to observe a royal ceremony. He was told to stand at the back, to speak only when spoken to leave once it was done. That was the plan. Plans did not survive long in this empire. At the far end of the hall, the alien queen sat upon her throne. The throne was grown, not built, black crystal shaped like wings folded in rest. Her eyes glowed faint gold, sharp and calm. She did not move. She did not need to. Beside the throne stood the princess. She wore white ceremonial robes lined with silver light. Her long hair fell down her back like a dark river. Her hands were folded in front of her, perfect and still. She looked peaceful, but her eyes were not. Her eyes searched the hall again and again, passing nobles, guards, and council members, until they stopped. On the human. The human felt it. That feeling when you know you are being watched. He lifted his head slowly. For a moment, their eyes met. The air changed. A low sound moved through the hall. Not a voice. Not a gasp. More like a deep breath taken by something very old. The queen finally spoke. Her voice was calm, soft, and impossible to ignore. The rite of binding will begin. The nobles straightened. Guards lowered their weapons in respect. Energy lights along the walls grew brighter. The human swallowed. This was not in his briefing. The princess, the queen continued, must not stand alone during the rite. A pause. Tradition requires a consort. The word hit the hole like a dropped blade. Murmurs spread instantly. Sharp whispers. Shock clicks of alien tongues. Several nobles stepped back without realizing it. No one volunteered. No one even looked at the princess. The human felt his heart begin to beat faster. This was wrong. The queen's glowing eyes moved slowly across the hall. Over powerful generals. Over ancient bloodlines. Over warriors who had broken worlds. None met her gaze. Then her eyes stopped. On the human. Silence crashed down. The queen raised one hand and pointed. You, she said. The word echoed. The human froze. Me? Before he could speak, guards moved. Not roughly, but firmly. They guided him forward across the cold crystal floor. Each step felt unreal, like walking into a dream that had teeth. This must be a mistake, he tried to say. No one answered. He was led to a single seat beside the princess. The seat was empty, waiting. Every alien eye in the hall burned into him. Some with anger, some with disbelief, some with fear. That seat had a name. That seat had a history. No human had ever touched it. The princess turned her head slightly. Up close, she was more real, not distant, not cold. Her breathing was steady, but her fingers trembled just a little. She looked at him, not like a queen, like someone afraid to be alone. Sit, the queen commanded. The human hesitated. He knew this was dangerous. He did not understand the rules. He did not belong here. One wrong move could start a war. But the guard were already behind him. Slowly, carefully, he sat today. The moment he touched the seat, a pulse of light ran across the floor. Symbols flared along the pillars. The whole reacted, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. A sharp gasp echoed. The princess's eyes widened. The queen's expression did not change, but her eyes shone brighter. The bond is accepted, she said. Accepted? The human's breath caught. He was not bound. He was not promised. He was not chosen. He was supposed to be fake. That was what they told him in a rushed whisper moments later. A council aide leaned close and spoke fast. Do not touch her. Do not speak unless spoken to. This is temporary. just for the right. Temporary. The human nodded once. He stared straight ahead. The princess did not. She shifted slightly closer. Not enough to touch. Enough to feel. Her voice was soft, almost lost under the hose hum. You won't leave, will you? He did not answer. He could not, because at that moment, he understood something very clearly. This seat was not empty by accident, and he was not sitting there by chance. Far above, unseen by all but one, ancient symbols carved into the ceiling began to glow. The rite had begun, and the seat no human should take had finally been filled. The hall did not return to normal after the human sat down. It stayed tense, too quiet, like everyone was waiting for something to break. The symbols along the floor slowly faded, but the feeling they left behind did not. The air felt heavier now, charged with something unseen. Guards shifted their stance. Nobles whispered behind their hands. Some looked at the human with anger, others with fear. None looked calm. The human stayed still. He kept his hands on his knees, his back straight, his eyes forward. He did not dare move even a little. The seat beside the princess felt warm now, almost alive, as if it knew he was there. The princess sat very close, not touching, but close enough that he could feel her presence, like heat through thin glass. The queen raised her hand again. Let the rules be spoken, she said. A tall alien stepped forward. His skin was dark blue, his eyes bright white. He carried a thin staff marked with old symbols. His voice was sharp and clear. The human is a temporary consort, the alien announced. This role is ceremonial only. Several nobles nodded, but many did not look convinced. The rules are simple, the alien continued. Rule 1, no physical bond. No touch. The human felt his chest loosen slightly. Rule 2, no emotional bond. That one felt heavier. Rule 3, when the rite ends, the human leaves. A pause. Alive, the alien added carefully. A few quiet laughs echoed through the hall. Not kind ones. The human swallowed. Alive was good. Temporary was good. Leaving was very good. This would end. It had to. The alien stepped back. The queen leaned forward slightly on her throne. You will sit beside her, she said, looking directly at the human. You will stand when she stands. You will remain silent unless spoken to. The human nodded once. Yes, he said quietly. The princess did not look at the queen. She looked at him. Her eyes were darker up close. Deep, thoughtful, not cold like the others. There was something careful in them, like she was holding back words she had waited a long time to speak. The ceremony began. Lights dimmed. Soft energy waves moved through the hall. Ancient music filled the air, slow and low, like a heartbeat older than stars. The princess rose. The human rose with her. Perfect timing. The nobles noticed. The princess walked forward. The human followed half a step behind, exactly as tradition required. Every move felt rehearsed, even though he had never done this before. They stopped at the center circle. The princess raised her hand. Her fingers trembled, just a little. The human saw it. No one else seemed to. Without thinking, he shifted slightly closer. Still not touching. Just there. Her hand steadied. A soft glow appeared around them. Thin lines of light traced the space between their shoulders. The nobles reacted instantly. That should not happen, someone whispered. The princess's breathing slowed. She spoke, her voice calm but quiet. You're doing well, she said. The human blinked. She was not supposed to talk to him freely. I am just sitting, he replied, just as softly. She almost smiled. Almost. As the rite continued, the human began to notice things. The princess never looked at the nobles, never looked at the council, never looked at the queen, only at him. Whenever the hall grew louder, her gaze returned to him. Whenever the energy flared, she leaned slightly closer, always careful, always within the rules, but not distant. Time passed strangely in the hall. Minutes felt long. Seconds felt sharp. Then it happened. The human felt it before he saw it. A pressure. Not painful. Not gentle. Something ancient brushing against his mind. The symbols beneath their feet flickered again. The princess inhaled sharply. Her fingers curled at her side. The human turned his head. "Are you okay?" he asked before he could stop himself. The hall froze. Dozens of heads snapped toward him. The rules echoed in his mind. Do not speak unless spoken to. The queen's eyes narrowed. The princess answered before anyone else could. "Yes," she said clearly. The glow faded. The pressure vanished. The queen studied them both. Interesting, her eyes seemed to say. The ceremony ended soon after. The princess returned to her place beside the throne. The human followed. They sat today. Again. The same seat. When the final tone sounded, the nobles bowed and began to leave in uneasy silence. The guards relaxed slightly, but their eyes stayed locked on the human. This was not over. A council aide approached the human quickly and leaned close. "You are causing reactions," he whispered. "This is not normal." "I am doing nothing," the human replied. "That is the problem," the aide said, and walked away. The princess remained seated. So did the human. Slowly, she turned toward him. Her voice was barely more than breath. "Everyone thinks this is fake," she said. He nodded. "It is," he replied. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that made his heart stop. "I hope it doesn't end." The lights dimmed again. Far above, the ancient symbols glowed once more, brighter than before. And somewhere deep within the palace, something old had awakened. The rules of a fake husband had been spoken, but something was already breaking them. The palace did not sleep that night. Light stayed dim across the royal corridors, glowing like quiet stars trapped in crystal walls. Guards stood at every corner, silent and alert. Whispers moved faster than footsteps. And at the center of it all was one problem. A human. The human sat alone in a waiting chamber near the royal hall. The room was simple compared to the throne room, but still too large, too perfect. Smooth walls, no windows, no doors he could open on his own. He had been told to wait. He hated waiting. His mind replayed the ceremony again and again. The glow, the pressure, the way the princess had looked at him, like he was not a stranger, like he was familiar. The door opened without sound. He stood up instantly. The princess stepped inside. No guards, no council, no queen, just her. She had changed clothes. No ceremonial robes now. She wore a dark, simple outfit meant for privacy. Her hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked younger like this, less distant, more real. "You were not dismissed," the human said carefully. "I dismissed myself," she replied. She walked closer, then stopped, just far enough to follow the rules. Still no touch. "You should not be here," he added. "I know." Silence filled the room. Not uncomfortable. Heavy. "Why me?" he asked finally. She looked down at the floor, then back up. "Because you didn't look away," she said. He frowned. "From what?" "From me." She stepped to the side, activating a thin wall of energy. The room sealed itself. "Private. Everyone here looks at me like a symbol," she continued. "A crown. A future. A tool." She met his eyes. "You looked at me like a person." The human did not know what to say. "I was told this was fake," he said instead. Her lips tightened slightly. "Yes," she said. "So was I." She turned away and walked slowly across the room. "The right is supposed to be empty," she said. "No meaning. No bond. Just tradition." She stopped, but today the whole reacted. The human nodded. "I felt it." Her shoulders stiffened. "So you did," she said quietly. She turned back to him. Her eyes changed. Not glowing, not dramatic, focused. When the symbols lit up, she said, they were not reacting to the throne. She took a slow breath. "They were reacting to you." The human's chest tightened. "That's impossible," he said. "I'm nobody." She shook her head. "That is what frightens them." A sudden sound echoed outside the room. Footsteps. Heavy ones. The princess's eyes widened. "Sit," she whispered urgently. He obeyed. The door opened again. 2 council members entered, followed by a tall alien general. Their armor pulsed faint red. Their eyes locked onto the human instantly. We sensed activation, the general said coldly. Explain. The princess stepped forward. I requested this meeting, she said calmly. The human did nothing. The council members exchanged looks. That is becoming a pattern, one of them said. The general stepped closer to the human. Look at me, he ordered. The human raised his eyes. The general studied him carefully. Then his expression changed. Just slightly. He stepped back. That mark, the general muttered. What mark? The human asked. The princess froze. The council member's voice dropped. The human cannot see it, he said, but the palace can. The princess slowly turned to the human. You don't feel it, she asked. Feel what? She stepped closer, closer than before, close enough that the rules screamed. Her eyes searched his face. Something inside you, she whispered. Something old. The energy in the room pulsed. The symbols on the walls flickered on their own. The general drew his weapon halfway. Enough, he said sharply. This experiment ends. The princess reacted instantly. No. The word echoed with power. The general froze. Everyone froze. Her eyes glowed, not bright, not wild, but steady, controlled. He leaves when the rite ends, she said. Until then, he stays. The council hesitated, then bowed. The general stepped back, angry but obedient. They left the room in silence. The door sealed again. The glow faded. The princess swayed slightly. The human stood up without thinking and moved toward her. He stopped just before touching her. You okay? He asked softly. She nodded. Then, for the first time, she smiled. A real smile. See, she said gently. You keep forgetting this is fake. He looked at her hand. So close. So human. So forbidden. I don't want to cause trouble, he said. She met his eyes. You already have. Outside the room, far below the palace, ancient systems woke from centuries of sleep. The act was breaking, and the eyes that watched them were no longer pretending. The princess did not sleep. Neither did the human. The palace was quiet, but not peaceful. Lights dimmed low, as if the walls themselves were trying not to be seen. Guards stood farther apart now, unsure where to look. Something had changed. The princess walked through a hidden corridor beneath the palace. The human followed, his steps slow and careful. He did not know how they got there. The doors opened for her without sound. The walls reacted to her presence like living things. This place is not on any map, she said softly. Why bring me here? He asked. Because you need to know, she replied. They reached a wide chamber deep underground. The room was circular, carved from black crystal. Old symbols covered the walls, glowing faint blue. The air felt warm, heavy, familiar. The human felt it in his chest. A pull. This is the heart vault, the princess said. Only the royal blood may enter. He looked around. Then I shouldn't be here. She turned to him. But you are. The symbols along the wall brightened. The princess raised her hand, and a large symbol in the center of the floor lit up. Images formed in the air, slow, moving pictures made of light. Stars, war, fire. This empire was almost destroyed long ago, she began. Not by enemies, but by fear. The images shifted. Alien fleets breaking apart. Worlds burning. A throne standing empty. We were saved by outsiders, she continued. Not allies. Not subjects. The image changed again. Humans. Not modern ones. Older. Stronger. Standing beside alien leaders. Not beneath them. The human stared. That's impossible, he said. You were erased from our records, the princess replied. Because you frightened the council. The images showed humans walking into glowing chambers, standing beside thrones, touching symbols like the ones on the walls. They called you unstable, she said. Unpredictable. The image froze on one human figure. He looked familiar. The human felt dizzy. That's not me, he said quickly. No, the princess agreed. But you are like him. She turned to face him fully. There's a trait, she said. Very rare, even among humans. She placed her hand over her chest. A resonance. The symbols around them pulsed. When someone with that trait sits beside royal blood during the rite, she said slowly, the palace reacts. The human swallowed. And the fake husband rule, he asked. Her voice softened. It exists to control damage, she said. To stop bonds before they begin. Silence stretched. You knew this would happen, he said. She did not deny it. I hoped it would not, she said honestly. The images faded. The chamber dimmed. Why me? He asked again, his voice low. The princess stepped closer. Because when you stood up to leave, she said, the palace resisted. He frowned. I didn't notice. You didn't, she replied. But I did. She looked away. I have spent my whole life being chosen for reasons I did not control, she said. For blood, for power, for tradition. She met his eyes again. You are the first thing that did not feel forced. The human's chest tightened. That doesn't mean I belong here, he said. A low sound rolled through the chamber. The walls darkened. The princess stiffened. She knows, the human said. The princess nodded slowly. Yes. Above them, far above, the queen stood alone in the throne hall. She did not need guards. She did not need advisors. She watched the glowing symbols through hidden channels only a ruler could access. Her eyes narrowed. So, she murmured, the old resonances returned. Back in the vault, the princess stepped back. When the rite ends, she said, they will try to remove you. Remove? He repeated. She looked away. From the palace, she said, or from existence. The human felt cold. Then why tell me? He asked. Because, she said softly, you deserve the truth. The chamber lights dimmed. Far above, alarms did not sound. They did not need to. The empire already knew. The secret only she knew was no longer hers alone, and destiny had begun to close its grip. The ceremony hall filled again the next day, not with music, not with celebration, with tension. Every noble was present, every council member, every general. The air itself felt tight, like it could tear if someone spoke too loudly. The princess stood beside the throne. The human sat beside her, the same seat, the seat that no longer felt empty. The queen watched them both in silence. Her eyes moved slowly, carefully, like she was measuring something invisible. The rite is complete, the queen finally announced. A wave of relief moved through the hall. This was it. The end. The human's heart beat hard in his chest. He reminded himself of the rules. Temporary. Fake. Leave alive. He waited. By tradition, the queen continued, the temporary consort is dismissed. Dismissed. The word felt heavy. The human placed his hands on his knees and leaned forward. He stood up. The moment his feet touched the floor, the palace reacted. Not loudly, not violently. The lights dimmed just a little. The symbols beneath the seat flickered once, then steadied. A low hum passed through the floor like a warning breath. The human froze. He turned his head slightly. The princess had not moved. Her hands were clenched at her sides. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes were locked on him, not calm, not distant. Afraid, not of him, of losing him. Wait, a council member said sharply. The human stopped. The queen lifted one hand. Let him go, she said. The human took one step forward. Then it happened. The princess moved. She reached out and took his hand. The contact was real. Warm. Clear. The hall exploded into noise. Shouts. Gasps. Weapons shifting. Energy fields flaring to life. Several nobles stepped back in fear. The symbols across the hall ignited in full light. The princess stood up, still holding his hand. Her voice was not loud, but it filled the hall. Don't go. Everything stopped, even the queen. The human turned fully toward her. Her grip was tight. Not desperate. Certain. This was not part of the rite, a general shouted. The princess did not look at him. I know, she said calmly. The queen rose from her throne. Release him, she commanded. The princess did not. This bond was not forced, the princess said. It was not planned. It was not chosen by the council. The glow around them grew stronger. It chose us. The queen studied her daughter for a long time. Then she looked at the human. Do you understand what you are standing inside? The queen asked him. No, the human replied honestly, but I understand her. A sharp intake of breath echoed through the hall. The queen's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in recognition. Dangerous answer, she said quietly. The princess stepped closer to the human, still holding his hand. I will not be alone again, she said. Not for tradition, not for fear. The hall shook slightly, not from power, from agreement. The queen raised her hand slowly. Then hear this, she said. The rite may be complete, but the consequences are not. She looked at them both. What you began today cannot be undone. The princess did not hesitate. Then we will face it, she said. The human squeezed her hand once. Not as a husband, not as a symbol, as a choice. Far below the palace, ancient systems fully awakened. Old alliances shifted. Warning spread across the empire. This was no longer a fake bond. And when the human stood up to leave, destiny stood up with him. The hall did not calm after the princess spoke. It grew colder. Guards tightened their formation. Energy weapons hummed softly, not aimed, but ready. Nobles whispered in fear, not anger. This was no longer about rules. This was about balance. The queen stood tall, her shadow stretching across the floor like a living thing. Her voice was steady, but the weight behind it pressed down on everyone present. You have crossed a line, she said. The princess did not release the human's hand. I stepped over it, she replied, willingly. The queen turned her gaze to the human. You were invited as an observer, she said. You became a catalyst. I never meant to, the human answered. That is how the most dangerous things begin, the queen said calmly. The symbols around the hall shifted. Some dimmed, others burned brighter. Old systems were arguing with new choices. The council demands removal, one elder said, for stability. The princess stiffened. The queen raised a hand to silence the room. There will be no rash action, she said. She walked down from the throne. Each step echoed. She stopped in front of them. You have two paths, the queen said, looking at the human. And neither is safe. The whole leaned in. First, she continued, you leave now. The princess's grip tightened. You return to your people. The bond is severed by force. The palace will forget you. The human swallowed. And the second, he asked. The queen met his eyes. You stay. A ripple of shock moved through the hall. You accept the resonance, she said. You become visible to forces that have slept for centuries. She turned slightly toward the princess. You become a permanent part of her fate. Silence followed. The human looked at the princess. She did not speak. She did not beg. She simply looked at him, steady, honest, unafraid. If I stay, he asked slowly, what happens? The queen answered without hesitation. Some will fear you. Some will hate you. Some will try to destroy you. The human nodded. And if I leave? The queen hesitated. The princess noticed. She will survive, the queen said finally. But something in this empire will break. The human exhaled slowly. He looked around the hall. At the nobles who saw him as a threat. At the guards who were unsure whether to protect or strike. Then he looked back at the princess. You knew this would come, he said softly. Yes, she replied. Why didn't you stop it? She shook her head. Because some endings are worse than danger. The human closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered Earth. Noise. Distance. Being small in a big system that never noticed him. He opened his eyes. I won't leave her alone, he said. The whole erupted. Shouts. Anger. Fear. Denial. The queen raised both hands, and silence returned instantly. So be it, she said. She turned to the guards. Lower your weapons. Slowly, they obeyed. The queen faced the princess. You bind your fate to him, she said. Know that I will not protect him from what comes. The princess bowed her head. I do not ask you to. The queen then looked at the human one last time. You are no longer a guest, she said. You are variable. The symbols along the walls locked into a new pattern. Far beyond the palace, signals spread across the empire. Ancient watchers took notice. Old enemies stirred. The choice that shook empires had been made, and there was no turning back. The palace did not fall into chaos. It changed. That was the most frightening part. After the queen's words, the whole slowly settled. Guards lowered their weapons. Nobles stopped shouting. Fear did not vanish, but it learned to breathe. The human still stood beside the princess, still holding her hand. No one told him to sit. No one dared. The queen returned to her throne, slower now, older, as if the weight of centuries had shifted slightly off her shoulders. The empire will adapt, she said. It always does. Her eyes rested on them both. But understand this, she added. From this moment forward, there will be no pretending. The princess nodded. The human nodded too. The queen raised her hand, and the ancient symbols across the whole changed form. The light softened. The sharp edges faded. Something harsh became whole. The bond is recognized, the queen announced. Not as tradition. A pause, but as truth. A low sound passed through the hall. Relief, disbelief, awe. The princess finally released the human's hand. Not because she had to, because she no longer feared losing him. Later, far from the throne room, they stood on a high balcony overlooking the city. Towers of light stretched into the sky. Ships moved like slow stars above them. The wind was gentle. This is where they expect answers, the human said quietly. They will get them, the princess replied. Just not today. He looked at her. No more fake, then. She smiled. No more lies, she said. He laughed softly. I didn't plan any of this. I know, she replied. That's why it worked. Below them, the palace systems adjusted. Old barriers lowered. New paths opened. The empire was not healed, but it was no longer stagnant. For the first time in a long time, it was moving forward. The queen watched from afar through silent screens. A human, she murmured, not chosen for power, not trained for rule. She closed her eyes, just present. She opened them again. Perhaps that is what we were missing. As night fell, the princess and the human remained on the balcony. No guard stood nearby. No council waited. Just two beings who had been pushed together by fate and stayed by choice. He sat beside her as a fake husband, the records would later say. But history would remember something else. He stood when it mattered. He stayed when he could have left. And in an empire built on fear and control, a simple human choice proved stronger than ancient laws. The seat no human should take was no longer forbidden. It was occupied, not by tradition, not by force, but by someone who chose to stay. And that made all the difference.